And my apologies for the late start. It's been playing up. I'm not sure my internet seemed okay, but we've got some rain, so I'm not sure if that's the issue. But welcome to Sunday Night Mindset. How have you all been? How was your week? Have you managed to take some time out? Did you manage to consider how precious your time was and actually decide what to do with that time and where it's best spent? Did you have a look at any inner conflict? Was it something that you already knew? Were you aware that you had been saying you wanted something but you hadn't been acting in the right way? Is there anything new that you discovered this week? And did you stop, look and listen? These are really, all the steps that we're taking every week are really important, because this week I want to do something different, and I'm hoping that this is going to explain why it's so important. Because we've done a bit about accountability and things like that, and what I've noticed as time's gone on is that people aren't reacting the same way as they were when we started. One of the reasons why, I don't know if you've heard this term before, but usually it's connected with social media, but actually I think social media and the impact it's had is bleeding into the rest of our lives. So tonight I want to talk about initially instant gratification. What's your understanding of instant gratification? So for me, I relate it to social media, like I said, and particularly with the children with me, you know, they aren't as bad about likes and things like that, but I know their friends are. And if the more likes they get, the better they feel. But everything is immediate. We want to feel good immediately. And I think sometimes people think that coaching is a magic wand kind of thing, but actually it's not. I could make you feel better in an hour or 2 hours, but that wouldn't help you longer term. Now, all that I'm doing over these 6 weeks, and maybe longer, I feel like it's going really well, is I want to teach you skills that you can use year in, year out. Not just once this course has ended, you feel good for the next 3 weeks, but it starts to dwindle, and that's what happens often. So I'm not about instant gratification. Like I said at the start, I can't change things for you. The only person who can change things is you, no matter how many people you get to help you, no matter how many courses you go on, no matter how many books you read. Nobody is going to make those changes that you need to make. And that's quite a tough pill to swallow at times. But the power is with you. If you allow people to take control, if you allow people to tell you what to do, how to do it, or even steer you in the right direction, are you really accountable? Are you really doing what you need to do for your life? Because I can tell you things, I can tell you what to go and do tomorrow, but that would be based on my experience, my life, and what I think. It won't be based on your life and your experience and what you want out of life. So, instant gratification, and maybe that doesn't appeal to a lot of people, because I see a lot of things on social media in particular where, it's earned 600,000 in 6 weeks or whatever, and people jump on it, and you see thousands of people following posts like that. But the reality is those things don't happen often unless you put the input in, unless you put the actions or you take the actions and you put a lot of effort into it. So I'm not a flick of the switch. So that's kind of what we're going to talk about this week. I haven't got a rundown like I have the last few weeks. But the next thing I want to talk about, and I love this question, is the problem. And part of this kind of latches on to last week's inner conflict, where you're saying you want to achieve certain things, but you're doing different things. So you're not really getting anywhere. So you constantly feel like you're failing, but it all comes down to the actions you take. But is the problem? When you sit down and look around and try and identify what the challenges are in your life, are they really what you think they are? We're very clever, and I would say perception is a wonderful and an evil thing all at the same time. It's wonderful because we can twist it to how we want it to go. We can see what we want to see. but it's evil because we can see what we want to see as well. We can often assume things based on our perception about a situation, whether it's the situation is too hard, I can't do anything about it, or whether it's, oh, this is easy, I can do that. And I suppose it all ties into your mindset. How do you look at things? Do you look through a negative filter? Do you look through a positive filter? There isn't a right or wrong there. You know, whichever one you do, if you're a positive filter person, if you're a negative filter person, you just have to know what you need to do about it in order to make the right decisions for you. Even a negative filter doesn't have to be a bad thing. So next thing we're going to talk about today, do you really want to make a change? Do you really, have you said to yourself, right, my life has got to change, or I've got to lose weight, or I've got to find a new job, or I don't know, I want a different life. Okay, that's fine. If all those things are true, or if one of those things are true, or if you've got something in your head that you would like to achieve, do you really, really want to change it? Is change conditional? Will you only change if it goes a certain way? Will you only change if it's easy? Now, love or hate change, we change, life changes, day to day things change, particularly in today's climate. Things are changing rapidly. But the things that you choose to change, do you really want to change them? You know, if we go back to is the problem, is that what needs changing? Do we not know what we want to change? Are we frightened of change? Are we frightened of what's the other side of change? Now, I know many people are frightened of change, and the thought of the unpredictable and the unfamiliar, the other side of change, really takes us out of our comfort zone. And our comfort zone is not as comfy as we think it is. It's not like a nice cushy sofa with a nice warm blanket. Our comfort zone is just familiar and predictable. We go round the same loops all the time. But yet if we want to change, we have to go outside of that familiarity and predictability and see what's going to happen. And that can be scary. So, do you really want to change? Is the problem? And if it turns out that it's not the problem and that's not what you want to change, that's not a right or wrong thing. That's about going, okay, I've changed my mind, yeah? That's actually not what I need to change. In order to get there, I need to change this, this and this. And that's fine. That's not a mistake, that's just learning. Life learning. I've got 2 questions I love to ask somebody, ask my clients, and actually I ask these a lot, usually of adults, but this week I asked a child these same questions and she made some massive discoveries. So I wanted to ask you this week. What is your current situation doing to you? What's the impact on your life? Good or bad? It may be wonderful, but there's one element that's not. But it may be doing some damage that you've maybe ignored or you're pretending is not happening. And is that okay with you? So what is your situation doing to you? The second question is, what's your situation doing for you? Now, the surprising thing here is that, bearing in mind I work with anxiety and depression, most people don't think that anxiety or depression is doing anything for them. But when we look deeper, they often find that, let's say anxiety, the anxiety is allowing them to get attention. So it feels nice in that respect. Not the anxiety is nice. We're not saying that the anxiety is not there. We're saying that the anxiety brings things into their life that actually makes them feel safe, whereas the anxiety doesn't. Maybe the anxiety offers us some protection. We can use it to excuse going out. So if we're not social people, we can say that our anxiety is really bad and we don't want to go out. And that gives us a level of protection. People don't question past that. So if your situation is not where you want to be currently, what is it doing for you? What are the negative positives? if that makes sense. When I asked this child this week, it was lovely to see that she'd made this fantastic discovery, because I don't think she realised it either. So when we are so unaware of other things going on, we're so busy living life and doing what needs doing, you know, sorting the children, sorting our lives out, working, doing all the things that we need to do. Often we lose track of the other things. So those two questions: what is your situation doing to you? What is your situation doing for you? I'd love to hear what you learn this week. Even if it's in a private message, it doesn't have to be in the comments, but if you want to put in the comments, that's wonderful. But do let me know. So we usually do a creating mind space and emotional capacity, and I usually offer one tip. I'm not going to offer a tip this week. I'm just going to ask you to decide whether you're invested in creating emotional capacity and mind space. Maybe I haven't explained it well enough. So do you understand what that means and what it takes to do that? So creating mind space is about being able to take time out of the busyness of your head and enjoy the moment, and then giving yourself the time and the ability to make the right decisions. Because when we're caught up in all the busyness in our heads and our hearts, our emotions are quite strong as well, we can make the wrong decisions based on that emotional fuel and that mental limited capacity. And the emotional capacity is about expressing your emotions, being able to offload not just today's emotions, but sometimes a year's worth of emotions. Sometimes there's frustrations there that we don't understand, but they're a secondary emotion and they've come from other things. So being able to open those spaces up, whereas when our mind is busy, we don't always have the capacity to be rational. And the same with our emotional capacity. When our mind and emotional spaces are busy and full, we make a lot of irrational decisions. So this week is just answering those questions and trying to find time and space to create emotional mind space, mind space and emotional capacity, or even emotional mind space. But do spend that time. And if you've got questions, if this week strikes a nerve with you, then get in touch, because I'm not a flick a switch kind of person. I want long-term changes. I want to build long-term skills. And it's, you know, if you're looking for instant gratification, then I'm not that person for you. Hope you have a good week. I'm going to be getting on top of these this week, because I know that those two questions that I've asked myself for a long time, I don't always have the answer. So I'm going to ask myself those questions this week again, and I'll catch up with you next week. Even though some of our children are going back to school this week in Wales, so up to year 8s are going back to school, and year 9s over that are staying home, I'll be doing just a video every day just to keep in touch with you all. Hope you have a good week. If you do want me to talk about anything in particular, or you want to ask any questions, get in touch. Have a good week. Bye.